The fluorescent lights of SaveMart supermarket buzzed overhead as Emily Clarke's trembling fingers counted crumpled bills for the third time. "Sorry you're short, $4.87. The cashier announced, loud enough for the growing line to hear. Emily's 3-year-old daughter tugged her worn coat. "Mommy, my milk!" Those two words shattered something inside her. Behind them, a man in an expensive wool coat stood frozen, watching. What he did in the next 60 seconds would unravel both their lives forever. Stay with me until the end of this story and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey travels. The baby formula container sat on the conveyor belt like an accusation. Emily Clarke stared at it, her vision blurring with exhaustion, and something far worse, shame that burned hotter than the Massachusetts winter wind she'd walked through to get here. "Ma'am?" The cashier, a teenager with purple-streaked hair and a nameplate reading Kayla, shifted uncomfortably. "Do you want to put something back?" Behind Emily, the line had grown. 5 people, then 6. She could feel their eyes drilling into her back, could hear the whispered calculations of strangers measuring her worth. Her daughter Mia pressed against her leg, small fingers clutching the fabric of Emily's discount store jeans. "Mommy." Mia's voice was small, confused. "Why can't we take it?" The question landed like a punch. Emily had rehearsed this moment in her head 1,000 times, the grocery run that would finally break her. She'd done the math obsessively on the bus ride over, calculated every cent 3 times, but somewhere between the canned vegetables and the checkout line, the universe had decided to test her again. I'll put back the bread," Emily whispered, reaching for the cheapest white loaf she'd grabbed. "That's only $2.49. "Honey," Kayla said, not unkindly, "you're still short." The man behind her cleared his throat. Emily's spine stiffened, bracing for judgment, for impatience, for another reminder that she was failing at the simple act of feeding her child. But when she glanced back, what she saw confused her. He wasn't looking at his phone, wasn't sighing dramatically. He was just watching. Tall, maybe early 40s, with dark hair touched with gray at the temples, and eyes that seemed to calculate something she couldn't quite read. Beside him stood a little girl about Mia's age, holding his hand, her expensive coat buttoned precisely to her chin. "Just give me the formula back," Emily said, her voice cracking. "We'll make do." "Mommy, no." Mia's cry cut through the store's Muzak version of some pop song. "You said my tummy needs it." 3 months ago, Emily had lost her job at the dental office when they downsized. The second job, overnight cleaning at the office complex, barely covered rent on their studio apartment. Her sister had moved to California, her parents were gone, and the father of her child might as well have been a ghost for all the support he provided. The formula wasn't a luxury. Mia had a sensitive stomach, needed the special kind that didn't make her sick. Emily reached for her daughter's hand, tried to pull her close to quiet her before the scene got worse. But Mia, 3 years old and too young to understand dignity or pride or any of the invisible rules that governed adult suffering, planted her feet. "The lady said we need $4 and..." Mia held up uncertain fingers, "and more pennies." "Mommy, I have pennies in my piggy bank." Someone in line laughed. Not cruel exactly, but Emily felt it like a slap anyway. She scooped Mia up, formula forgotten on the belt, ready to leave, ready to walk the 43 minutes back to their apartment because she couldn't afford the bus fare now, and... "Excuse me." The man had stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but carried weight like he was used to being heard. "I think there's been a mistake with my order. Can you ring me up first? I'm in a hurry." Kayla looked confused. "Sir, this lady was..." "Please." Something in his tone made it not a request. "It'll just take a moment." Emily stood frozen, Mia heavy in her arms as the man placed a single newspaper on the belt. Kayla scanned it. $2.50. He handed her a $100 bill. "Keep the change," he said, then turned to Emily. Their eyes met for one suspended second. His daughter was watching with that peculiar intensity children have when adults do things that don't make sense. "Have a good day," he added, then walked away, his daughter's hand in his, before anyone could respond. Kayla stood there, mouth open, holding $97.50. The bills lay on the counter like a question no one knew how to answer. "Well," the cashier finally said, "I guess, ma'am, would you like me to finish your order?" Emily's mind spun. "I still don't have—" He said, "Keep the change." Kayla's eyes were wide. "I think he meant, there's enough here to cover your groceries, and like 50 other people's." "That's not—" Emily's throat closed. "That's not for me. He bought a newspaper. That money is for your tip, or the register, or—" "Ma'am." An older woman behind her black coat and silver hair touched Emily's shoulder gently. "Take it. Some angels don't have wings, they just have good timing and fat wallets." Emily looked down at Mia, whose confused expression was melting into hope. The formula sat there, $4.87 away. She'd worked 16-hour days, had skipped meals, had sold everything that wasn't nailed down, and still somehow kept coming up short. And now a stranger had what taken pity on her, made her a charity case in front of everyone. The shame and gratitude twisted together until she couldn't tell which was which. "Ring it up," she whispered. Kayla moved quickly, scanning the remaining items: the formula, the bread, the can of soup, the box of pasta, the package of chicken marked down for quick sale. $23.47, she announced. Then took money from the pile and made change. "And here's your receipt." Emily took it with shaking hands. Mia had started babbling happily about her milk. The woman behind them smiled. Kayla handed Emily a plastic bag with her groceries, and then just before Emily turned away, pressed something else into her palm. "He left this too," Kayla whispered, quiet enough that only Emily heard. "Said to give it to you when you were leaving." Emily looked down. Another $20 bill folded around a simple note written on a SaveMart receipt. "For the bus fare home. No child should walk in the cold. A friend." The tears came then, hot and humiliating and impossible to stop. Emily clutched Mia tighter, grabbed her bag and rushed for the exit before anyone could see her completely fall apart. She didn't see the man watching from his car in the parking lot, his daughter's hand still in his. Both of them silent as Emily and Mia disappeared into the winter afternoon. 3 days later, Emily was back at SaveMart because the universe had a sick sense of humor. It was a Wednesday, which meant the rotisserie chickens went on sale after 6 p.m. And if she timed it right, she could get one for $3.99 instead of $7.99. The math mattered. Every dollar mattered. She'd been calculating obsessively since Saturday, trying to make the mysterious $20 stretch without actually spending it. Like if she kept it in her wallet untouched, it would somehow prove she wasn't as desperate as she felt. Mia was with Mrs. Chen, the elderly neighbor, who watched her in exchange for Emily running errands and helping with English paperwork. It meant Emily could shop faster, more efficiently, without the added weight of her daughter's needs, making every decision emotional. She was comparing pasta prices, 16 cents difference between brands, which over a month meant. When she heard a voice she recognized. "Dad, can we get the cookies, please?" Emily's head snapped up. 2 aisles over she could just see him. The man from Saturday. He was crouched down eye level with his daughter, the little girl who'd watched the whole scene with those serious eyes. "Lily," he said patiently. "We talked about this. You had cookies yesterday. But these are different. They have chocolate and vanilla." He smiled, and something about it caught Emily off guard. It wasn't the polished smile of someone used to getting their way. It was tired and genuine and a little bit resigned. "Half a package tonight, half tomorrow. Deal? Deal." Emily ducked her head quickly, pretending to be fascinated by rotini versus penne. Her heart hammered stupidly. What were the odds? SaveMart was one of 5 major grocery stores in their area of Boston. And here he was shopping like a normal person, negotiating cookies with his kid like he hadn't changed Emily's entire week with a $100 bill and a scribbled note. She should leave, should avoid the potential awkwardness of another encounter. But her feet stayed planted, and her hands stayed on the pasta, and when she heard their cart squeaking closer, she knew she'd waited too long. "Excuse me, oh." He'd rounded the corner. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by something else. Concern, curiosity. His daughter Lily peered around him, clutching her cookie package like treasure. "Hi," he said simply. "Hi." Emily's voice came out smaller than intended. She straightened, hyper-aware of her second-hand coat. Her unwashed hair pulled into a messy bun, the fact that she was holding 2 pasta boxes like her life depended on the decision. An awkward beat passed. Lily tugged her father's sleeve. "Dad, is that the milk lady?" "Lily. You said she needed help with her milk and we were being kind and—" "Lily, honey." He placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder, gentle but firm. "Inside voice, remember." Emily felt her face burn. The milk lady. Of course his daughter had asked questions. Of course she'd become a story, a lesson in charity, a teaching moment about helping the less fortunate. "I should—" She gestured vaguely toward the front of the store. "I have to catch the chicken sale." "The rotisserie ones." He asked it like a normal question, like they were normal people. "They're good. We get them too sometimes." Lily was staring at Emily with that unblinking child intensity. "Do you have a little girl too?" Emily's defenses cracked slightly. "I do. Her name is Mia. She's 3. "I'm 4, Lily announced proudly. "That means I'm older and bigger and—" She looked up at her father. "Can they come to my birthday party?" "Lily." "It's at the museum, the science one, with the dinosaurs." Emily felt something twist in her chest. The Museum of Science. She'd promised Mia they'd go someday when things were better, when she could afford the admission price that seemed designed to keep people like them out. "That sounds wonderful," Emily said carefully, "but I'm sure your dad has the guest list all planned." The man, she still didn't know his name, looked at her for a long moment. "Actually, we're always happy to have more kids. Lily's a bit shy sometimes. More friends would be nice." Lily, who'd just announced her life story to a stranger, did not look shy. But Emily recognized the lie for what it was, a kindness and invitation wrapped in need to make it easier to accept. "That's very generous," Emily said. "But, here." He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "What's your number? I'll text you the details. No pressure. Just, if you want to come, too." This was insane. She didn't know this man. Didn't know anything except he'd paid for her groceries once and apparently taught his daughter to call her the milk lady. But Mia's face when Emily had come home with the formula, had made dinner, had tucked her in with a full stomach. That face haunted every decision now. Emily recited her number. He typed it in, hit send. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text with a time, a date 3 weeks away, and an address she'd have to look up later. "I'm Daniel, by the way," he said. "Daniel Hayes." "Emily Clarke." Lily waved enthusiastically. "Bye, Emily. Tell Mia about the dinosaurs." They moved past her then, cart squeaking, Lily chattering about something else already. Emily stood in the pasta aisle, 2 boxes still in her hands, trying to process what had just happened. Daniel Hayes. The name tickled something in her memory, but she couldn't place it. She selected the cheaper pasta, mechanically added it to her basket, and headed for the chicken counter, where Mrs. Rodriguez was already marking down the rotisserie birds. It wasn't until she was on the bus home, Mia asleep against her shoulder, that Emily pulled out her phone and Googled the name. The results made her drop the phone. Daniel Hayes, CEO of Hayes Enterprises. Net worth $847 million. Owner of, she scrolled with shaking fingers, 12 SaveMart locations across Massachusetts, including the one she shopped at. The man who'd paid for her formula wasn't just wealthy. He owned the store. had probably watched the whole thing on security cameras, had probably seen her humiliation in high definition. Emily's stomach churned. The birthday invitation suddenly felt different. Not kind. Calculated. Some rich guy's guilt project turning her into a feel-good story he could tell at parties. You should have seen this poor woman couldn't even afford baby formula. She looked at Mia's peaceful face, thought about the dinosaurs at the museum, about the way Lily had seemed genuinely excited for them to come. Then she deleted Daniel's text, blocked the number, and stared out the bus window at the city lights, trying not to cry. The universe, Emily decided, was definitely laughing at her. A week after blocking Daniel Hayes's number, Emily showed up for her overnight shift at Prestige Office Complex and found a new manager waiting in the break room. Emily Clarke. The woman consulted her clipboard. I'm Margaret Liu, Regional Supervisor. We've had some restructuring. Good news is we're doubling the cleaning staff and adjusting schedules. You'll be moving to evening shifts, 6 p.m. to midnight instead of overnight. Emily's mind raced. I can't do evenings. I have a daughter. I need the overnight because my neighbor watches her then. But if I'm gone in the evening, the pay's the same, Margaret continued as if Emily hadn't spoken. Actually slightly higher, $16.50 instead of $15. And you won't be working alone anymore. But it's not negotiable on company policy from the top, new safety regulations. Margaret's expression softened. Look, I know change is hard, but this is actually better. Overnight shifts were killing you all slowly. At least now you can sleep like a normal person. Emily wanted to scream that she wasn't a normal person. Normal people didn't have to choose between jobs and childcare. Didn't have to perform complicated calculus to figure out if earning an extra $1.50 an hour was worth losing the neighbor's help. She took the shift change paperwork home in a daze. Mrs. Chen couldn't watch Mia in the evenings. She had her Tai Chi class, her shows, her own life. Emily spent 3 days calling every cheap daycare, every after-school program, every possible solution, and came up with nothing that didn't cost more than the raise would cover. On Thursday, she was back at SaveMart because apparently she couldn't shop anywhere else without it feeling loaded when she ran into Daniel Hayes for the third time. This time, there was no avoiding him. He was at the customer service desk talking to a manager and spotted her the moment she walked in. His face did something complicated, and then he was walking toward her, Lily not with him for once. Emily. He said her name carefully. You blocked my number. She stopped, trapped between the entrance and the produce section, her empty reusable bags hanging from her shoulder like a declaration of intent. I did. Can I ask why? I Googled you. The words came out harder than intended. You own this place, this whole chain. You watched me not be able to afford formula for my daughter, and then what, decided to play fairy godmother? Turn my life into your charity project of the month. A couple of shoppers glanced their way. Daniel noticed, gestured toward the corner by the flower display. Can we talk, just for a minute? I have shopping to do. Please. Something in his voice made her follow. They ended up partially hidden by a display of funeral arrangements which felt grimly appropriate. You're right, Daniel said. I do own this store, these stores. And yes, I saw what happened. But I didn't plan it, Emily. I was here with Lily just buying groceries like anyone else. I don't usually... He rubbed his face. My wife died 2 years ago. Cancer. And before that, before any of this. He gestured vaguely at the store, at his expensive watch, at the invisible empire. I grew up in Dorchester. My mom cleaned houses. My dad left when I was 6. I know what it's like to put food back at checkout. Emily's anger wavered, but didn't break. So, this is what paying it forward, easing your conscience. It's me seeing someone who needed help and actually being in a position to help. His voice was quiet but intense. I'm not trying to save you, or fix you, or turn you into some story. I saw my mom in your face, that's all. The birthday invitation. Was Lily's idea completely. She doesn't know who needs money and who doesn't. She just liked that you were nice to her in the store and wanted more friends. He paused. The invitation still stands, by the way. No strings, just kids and dinosaurs and too much cake. Emily's phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen apologizing again about the evening schedule. Reality crashed back. She needed to shop, needed to figure out childcare, needed to, "Are you okay?" Daniel's concern looked genuine, which somehow made it worse. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." "Yeah, well, not all of us can solve our problems by throwing money at them." She regretted it immediately, but the words were out. Daniel flinched. "No, we can't. I couldn't throw enough money at cancer to save Sarah. Couldn't buy my way out of explaining to a 4-year-old why mommy wasn't coming home. Money doesn't fix everything, Emily. It just makes some things easier." The grief in his voice was raw enough to cut through her defenses. She thought of Mia asking about her father, the conversations Emily couldn't quite figure out how to have. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "About your wife." "I'm sorry about whatever's making you look like you haven't slept in a week." Emily laughed, but it came out broken. "Try 3 years." They stood there for a moment, two people drowning in different ways, surrounded by flowers meant for the dead. "My work changed my hours," Emily heard herself say. "I can't do evening shifts. I have to quit. Which means I need to find something new. But I've been looking and everything pays less, or wants experience I don't have, and I'm—" She stopped, horrified. She was telling him any of this. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then, "What kind of work do you do? I mean, what did you do before?" "Dental office, front desk, scheduling insurance patient intake." "And now?" "Janitorial." She waited for judgment, for pity. Instead, Daniel pulled out his phone. "Hayes Enterprises has a corporate office. Medical and dental benefits coordinator just quit last week, family relocation. Day hours 9 to 5, full benefits, pays $52,000 a year." He looked up. "Can you start Monday?" Emily's world tilted. "You're what?" "I'm offering you a job, if you want it. No strings. You'll have a boss, Marcus Chen, good guy. You'll be in an office with 12 other people doing similar work. I'll barely see you. This isn't charity, Emily. This is me having a position that needs filling, and you having experience that matches." 52,000. She couldn't even finish the sentence. She'd been making barely 33 between both jobs. Benefits include healthcare, dental, vision, 3 weeks paid vacation after your first year, 401k matching. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was reading ingredients off a cereal box. "And there's on-site childcare, subsidized. Costs about $150 a week, which I know isn't nothing, but—" "Stop." Emily's hands were shaking. "You can't just— people don't just— I'm not people. I'm someone who needs a benefits coordinator and happens to know someone who needs a job. Let me give you Marcus's number. You can call him, interview properly. Do this the right way if that makes you feel better about it." Emily wanted to say no. Wanted to walk away to prove she didn't need rescuing, that she could handle her life on her own. But Mia's face flashed through her mind. Mia, who needed formula, and someday braces, and eventually college. Mia, who deserved a mother who slept more than 4 hours a night and didn't cry in grocery stores. "This isn't you feeling sorry for me," her voice cracked. "This is me making a business decision, and maybe, yeah, hoping it helps someone who helped remind me that kindness still matters. I didn't do anything. You didn't make me feel like garbage for helping. You could have. Some people do. They get angry, insulted. You just accepted it. Let your daughter get her milk. That takes a different kind of strength." Emily closed her eyes, breathed, opened them. "What's Marcus's number?" Daniel smiled, that same tired, genuine smile from the pasta aisle. He pulled out a business card, wrote a number on the back. "Call him tomorrow. Tell him I sent you. The rest is up to him and you." She took the card, felt its weight, wondered if she was making a deal with the devil or accepting a miracle. "The birthday party," Daniel added as she turned to leave. "The invitation really is still open. Lily asks about Mia every few days. Something about milk sisters. I don't entirely follow her logic." Despite everything, Emily almost smiled. "I'll think about it." She did her shopping in a fog, barely remembering what she put in the basket. On the bus home, she stared at Marcus Chen's number and tried to calculate the odds that this was real, that someone could just walk into your life and change it with a newspaper, a text, and a business card. Mia was waiting up when she got home. Even though it was past bedtime, Mrs. Chen had let her watch an extra TV show. "Mommy." Mia launched herself into Emily's arms. "I missed you 1,000,000. Emily held her daughter tight, breathed in the baby shampoo smell of her hair, and made a decision. She called Marcus Chen the next morning. The interview was Tuesday. She started the following Monday. And 3 weeks later, on a Saturday, bright with early spring sunshine, Emily Clarke and her daughter Mia walked into the Museum of Science, where a little girl named Lily was waiting to show them the dinosaurs. What Emily couldn't know, was that this was only the beginning. That accepting help would be harder than refusing it. That Daniel Hayes had his own demons, his own broken pieces, and that two fractured families were about to collide in ways neither could predict. But on that Saturday, with Mia's hand in hers and the promise of dinosaurs ahead, Emily let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, the universe wasn't laughing at her after all. Maybe it was finally on her side. Daniel unexpectedly appears at her workplace, disrupting her carefully constructed professional persona. Her apartment simultaneously faces a sudden crisis. A critical appliance breaks down, adding financial stress to her already precarious situation. The intersection of these moments creates a pressure point that will test Emily's resilience and reveal deeper connections. The T-Rex towered overhead, its massive jaw frozen mid-roar, and Mia's scream of delight echoed through the hall of dinosaurs so loudly that several parents turned to stare. Emily's grip tightened on her daughter's hand, that old instinct to make herself smaller, quieter, less noticeable kicking in automatically. "It's okay." Daniel's voice came from beside her, calm and amused. "That's the whole point of dinosaurs. They're supposed to be loud." Lily was already dragging Mia toward the Triceratops display, their hands linked like they'd known each other for years instead of minutes. Emily watched her daughter's face, pure, uncomplicated joy, and felt something in her chest simultaneously expand and constrict. "She's never been here before," Emily said quietly. "I kept promising we'd come, but..." She didn't finish. Didn't need to. "Well, she's here now." Daniel shifted the massive bag of party supplies he'd been carrying. "Come on, the party room's upstairs. We've got about 15 minutes before the other kids arrive, and Lily makes me do the dinosaur voice for every single species." The party room overlooked the Charles River floor-to-ceiling windows, letting in spring light that made everything feel possible. A banner reading, "Happy 4th Birthday Lily," hung across one wall, surrounded by balloons, in purple and silver, Lily's favorites Emily would learn. A table groaned under the weight of pizza boxes, juice pouches, and a cake shaped like a stegosaurus that must have cost more than Emily's weekly grocery budget. Dad! Lily burst back, in Mia in tow. "Can Mia sit next to me? Please. I want her right next to me." "It's your birthday, sweetheart. You can sit wherever you want." More families began arriving, parents in expensive athleisure and designer jeans. Kids in clothes without stains or patches. Everyone carrying wrapped presents that looked store-bought instead of dollar store desperate. Emily smoothed her own jeans self-consciously, the nicest pair she owned, but still obviously cheaper than everything else in the room. A woman about Emily's age, blonde hair in a perfect ponytail, approached with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hi, I'm Jessica Connor's mom. You're new to the group." "Emily, this is my daughter Mia." "Oh, how sweet. And how do you know the Hayes family?" The question felt loaded. Emily scrambled for an answer that wouldn't invite more questions. Lily and Mia met at we ran into each other a few times. They hit it off. At the country club, I don't think I've seen you at the tennis socials. No, Jessica. Daniel appeared, handed Emily a juice box she hadn't asked for. Thanks for coming. Connor's gotten so big. Wasn't he just learning to walk? Jessica's attention swiveled immediately. I know they grow so fast. Daniel, we missed you at the spring fundraiser last week. The Widows Foundation still needs a board member, you know. Something flickered across Daniel's face. Payne quickly shuddered. I'm aware. Still thinking about it. Sarah would have wanted... Jessica caught herself. Well, we just miss having you more involved. You know how Sarah was the heart of everything. Emily wanted to disappear. She didn't belong in conversations about fundraisers and country clubs and dead wives who'd apparently been beloved by everyone. She turned to find Mia escape into parenting as an excuse, but Daniel's hand touched her elbow lightly. Emily works for Hayes Enterprises now, he said to Jessica, voice pleasant but firm. Benefits coordinator. She's brilliant at it. It had been 4 days. Emily had barely figured out where the bathrooms were. But Jessica's expression shifted, not warmly exactly, but with a reassessment that felt like its own kind of judgment. Oh, well, that's wonderful. The company's benefits are so generous. She smiled again, still not genuine. Emily, we should do coffee sometime. I'd love to hear more about your... story. She drifted away before Emily could respond. Daniel sighed. I'm sorry about that. About what? The part where she thought I was a country club mom, or the part where you had to explain I'm not a complete charity case? The part where people like Jessica forget how to be normal human beings. He ran a hand through his hair. Sarah hated those fundraiser people. She did it anyway because she was better than me at pretending. Before Emily could respond, Lily's shriek split the air. Cake time. The party blurred after that kid screaming pizza being devoured, presents torn open with the particular savagery of 4-year-olds. Mia stayed glued to Lily's side, her face glowing with happiness that made Emily's throat tight. When had her daughter last looked that carefree? But Emily couldn't shake the weight of Jessica's questions, or the curious stares from other parents, or the way conversation seemed to pause when she approached groups. She found refuge by the windows watching the river until a man's voice interrupted. You're the one Daniel hired, right? She turned. The man was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I'm Tom Bradford. My grandson's the one currently trying to eat his weight in cake. Emily. And yes, I just started at Hayes Enterprises. Marcus Chen's team. You know Marcus. Known him for years. Good man. Doesn't suffer fools. Tom studied her. He's picky about who he hires. If you're on his team, you earned it. Something in Emily's chest loosened slightly. Thank you for saying that. Don't thank me, just telling the truth. He paused. People are going to talk, you know. That's what people like this do. They'll make up stories about how you know Daniel, why he hired you, what your angle is. Emily's stomach dropped. There's no angle. I know that. Daniel knows that. But truth doesn't always matter to people who've never had to worry about feeding their kids. His voice was gentle but honest. Just don't let it get to you. Daniel's a good man who's had a hell of a couple years. He's trying to remember what it feels like to do good things. Let him. Before Emily could process that, Lily appeared dragging both Mia and Daniel. Dad, Mia's never been on the butterfly garden exhibit. Can we take her? Please, please, please. Daniel looked at Emily. If it's okay with Mia's mom? Mia's eyes were huge with hope. Emily couldn't remember the last time she'd been able to say yes to something her daughter wanted. Okay, but we can't stay too long. We'll be quick, Daniel promised. They went down together, all 4 of them, and Emily tried not to think about how they probably looked like a family to anyone watching. The butterfly garden was warm and humid, filled with fluttering color and the delighted squeals of both girls. Daniel hung back with Emily while Lily showed Mia how to hold still so butterflies might land on them. "She's wonderful with kids," Emily said, watching Lily's patience with Mia. "She's wonderful, period. I don't know how I got that lucky." Daniel's voice was soft. "Sarah always said Lily saved us. We'd been trying for years fertility treatments, the whole nightmare. Then finally, Lily came and everything else just stopped mattering." "How long were you married?" 8 years when Sarah died, dated for 3 before that. He watched his daughter, expression unreadable. "We met at a coffee shop. She spilled her latte all over my laptop. I was furious until I saw her face, and then I just wasn't. She had this way of making you forget to be angry." Emily didn't know what to say. Her own history with Mia's father was nothing like that. A few months of bad decisions, a pregnancy scare that became reality, and then nothing but broken promises and child support checks that never came. "Mia's dad isn't in the picture?" Daniel asked, reading her silence. "Hasn't been since she was 6 months old. He sends a card sometimes, on the wrong birthday." "His loss," Daniel said simply. A blue morpho butterfly landed on Mia's outstretched hand. Her gasp of wonder carried across the humid space, and both Emily and Daniel smiled involuntarily. "Thank you," Emily said quietly. "For the job, the party, all of it. Stop thanking me. I don't know how to stop. It's all I think about, how much I owe you." "You don't owe me anything." Daniel turned to face her fully. "Emily, I'm not keeping score. I'm not waiting for payback. I'm just trying to remember what it feels like to be more than the guy whose wife died. To be someone who does things instead of someone things happen to." The honesty in his voice made Emily's defenses crack. Before she could respond, Lily screamed, not fear, just excitement, as a monarch butterfly landed on her nose. Monday morning arrived with the weight of reality. Emily's first day at Hayes Enterprises hadn't been real. There'd been so much paperwork, so many orientations and introductions that it all blurred together. But Monday was different. Monday meant actually doing the job. The Hayes Enterprises building was downtown, all glass and steel, and the kind of modern architecture that announced money in every line. Emily had to show her new badge 3 times just to get to the elevator. The benefits coordinator office was on the 7th floor, an open space with a dozen desks and the hum of focused work. Marcus Chen found her standing frozen in the doorway. "Emily, come on, I'll show you your desk. Coffee's in the break room, bathrooms are down the hall, and if anyone gives you trouble, you come straight to me." He was younger than she'd expected, maybe late 30s, with an easy smile and the efficient air of someone who actually enjoyed managing people. Her desk was by a window, prime real estate she'd later learn with a new computer, a stack of training manuals, and a small plant that Marcus admitted his wife had insisted on. "She says every desk needs something alive," he explained. "Don't worry, it's basically impossible to kill. Trust me, I've tried." The woman at the next desk, Michelle, barely glanced up when Marcus introduced them. "New girl? Got it." Her tone wasn't hostile exactly, but it wasn't warm either. The day was a hurricane of information software systems, insurance codes, employee databases, phone scripts for handling benefits, questions. Emily's head spun, trying to absorb it all, and by lunch her imposter syndrome was screaming that she didn't belong here, that Marcus would realize his mistake any minute. She ate her packed lunch alone in the break room until a woman about her age sat down across from her. "You're the new benefits coordinator." "Yeah. Emily." "Tasha. I'm in HR 2 floors up." She opened her own lunch, expensive-looking sushi. "How's Marcus?" "He's still telling the story about his wife and the plant." "He did mention that." "He tells everyone. It's his icebreaker." Tasha studied Emily with open curiosity. "So how'd you land this gig?" "Marcus is notoriously picky. Last person who applied had 10 years experience, and he still said no." Emily's stomach clenched. Had relevant experience from a dental office. Huh. Tasha's tone suggested she didn't quite buy it. And you interviewed when because I could have sworn this position just opened like 2 weeks ago. It did. I got lucky with timing. Right. Lucky. Tasha's smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, welcome to Hayes. Word of advice. People here notice everything. Who gets promoted, who gets hired fast, who gets the good assignments. Just be careful. She left before Emily could ask what that meant. The afternoon dragged Emily hyper-aware of every mistake she made, every question she had to ask. Michelle answered her queries with barely concealed impatience. By 4 p.m., Emily was ready to quit. Then a call came in. An employee, older woman voice shaking. My husband just got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I can't figure out the insurance. They're saying it's not covered, but it has to be covered, right? Please tell me it's covered. Emily pulled up the woman's file, hands steady, despite her racing heart. She cross-referenced the insurance policy, made notes, put the woman on hold to double-check with Marcus. When she came back, she had answers. Real answers. The treatment was covered under the catastrophic care clause. The specialist was in network, and Emily walked the woman through every step of the claims process. Thank you, the woman sobbed. Thank you so much. I didn't know what we were going to do. Emily hung up, hands shaking now, and found Marcus watching from his office doorway. He gave her a small nod. Good work. It wasn't much. But it was something. The next 3 weeks blurred together. Emily learned the rhythms of the office, memorized insurance codes, handled dozens of calls from employees navigating health crises and benefits questions. She discovered she was actually good at this, at translating bureaucratic nonsense into plain language, at finding solutions in policy labyrinths, at making people feel heard during their worst moments. Michelle stayed cold but professional. Tasha would occasionally appear with loaded questions disguised as friendly conversation. But Marcus had her back, and that mattered more. The subsidized child care center was 3 blocks away. A bright space with patient teachers and kids from all over the city. Mia loved it. For the first time in her life, she had friends who weren't dependent on Emily's work schedule, art projects that stayed up for more than a day, routines that felt stable. Emily would pick her up at 6 p.m., and they'd take the tea home together. Mia chattering about her day, and Emily would think about how this normal, steady, predictable life was what stability felt like. She didn't see Daniel at all. Hayes Enterprises was huge, and the CEO was floors away from benefits coordination. She told herself this was good, professional, less complicated. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, 4 weeks into the job, she literally ran into him in the lobby. Emily. He steadied her with a hand on her elbow as she stumbled back, nearly dropping her coffee. Sorry, I wasn't watching where... No, my fault I was. She stopped, too aware of curious eyes around them. Daniel in a suit was different than Daniel at a birthday party. This version was intimidating, powerful. The CEO who owned 12 stores and employed thousands. How's the job? He asked, voice carefully neutral. Good. Really good. Marcus is great. And Mia? She's liking the childcare center. Loves it. She talks about her friends constantly. An awkward pause stretched between them. Daniel shifted his briefcase. Lily keeps asking when she can see Mia again. She's been drawing pictures of the museum for weeks. Mia too. She made a whole dinosaur book. Maybe we could... Daniel started, then caught himself. If you wanted, I mean, no pressure. Lily she doesn't have many friends. Sarah's illness, and then after, we kept her pretty isolated. Mia's the first kid she's really connected with. Emily knew she should say no. Knew keeping boundaries between her boss's boss and her personal life was smart. But she thought about Mia's face at the museum, about Lily's genuine kindness, about 2 little girls who'd found friendship in a grocery store crisis. The park by the common, she heard herself say. Saturday morning we usually go around 10. Daniel's smile transformed his face. We'll be there. He left for whatever important CEO meeting was next, and Emily stood in the lobby, trying to figure out if she'd just made a good decision or a terrible one. Saturday was cold, but sunny, the kind of April morning that promised summer wasn't far away. Mia spotted Lily before Emily did, and the two girls collided in a tangle of excited hugs that made several other parents smile. Daniel appeared behind Lily, casual in jeans and a jacket, looking more like the man from the grocery store than the CEO from the lobby. They really did miss each other, he said, watching the girls race toward the playground. Guess so. Emily followed more slowly, coffee in hand, trying to project casual normalcy. They found a bench with a view of the play structure. For a while, comfortable silence stretched between them, just two parents watching their kids play. But Emily's mind was churning with questions she couldn't quite voice. Can I ask you something? She finally said. Always. Why'd you really hire me, and don't say it was just the position needing filling? I hear things at the office. People talk about how selective Marcus is, how hard it is to get hired. So why me? Daniel was quiet long enough that Emily regretted asking. Then? You want the honest answer, yes. Because I saw my mother in you, and I saw myself in Mia. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. My mom worked 3 jobs trying to keep us fed. I was the kid who wore the same clothes to school every week, who did homework by streetlight because we couldn't afford electricity half the time. And I watched her break herself trying to hold us together. He turned to face Emily. When I saw you at SaveMart trying so hard to keep your dignity while the whole world watched you fail at something as basic as buying formula, that was my mom. That was every person I've ever been who worked twice as hard for half as much. And I'm in a position to actually do something about that now. So yeah, I hired you because you needed the job. But I also hired you because Marcus said you were qualified, because your references from the dental office were glowing, and because I thought you'd be damn good at helping people navigate insurance nightmares since you've been living in one yourself. Emily's throat was tight. People at the office think I slept my way into the job. Who? Does it matter? It's what they're thinking? The single mom who got hired in record time by the widower CEO? People aren't subtle. Daniel's jaw tightened. Give me names and you'll what fire them for gossip that'll really help my reputation. Emily laughed bitterly. I just need to prove myself. Show them I belong there. You do belong there, says the man who hired me. They watched the girls for a while. Lily was teaching Mia how to pump her legs on the swing patient and encouraging. Mia's laughter carried across the playground. Sarah would have liked you, Daniel said suddenly. Emily didn't know how to respond to that. She grew up wealthy. Old Boston money, family name on buildings, the whole thing. But she hated it. Hated the pretense, the judgment, the way people measured worth by bank accounts. He smiled sadly. We fought about it sometimes. She wanted to give everything away. I wanted to build something that would last. We compromised by trying to do both. The Widow's Foundation. Emily remembered Jessica's comment. Among other things, Sarah started it 2 years before she got sick. Support for widows and single parents, financial assistance, job training, childcare grants. His voice went rough. Then she became a widow herself in a way. Cancer widowed us both from normal life. Daniel. She'd want me to help you, to help anyone struggling. So when people talk, when they make assumptions, remember that I'm doing exactly what Sarah would have done if she were still here. I'm just the lousy substitute version. Before Emily could argue, both girls came running over, breathless and flushed. Daddy, can Mia come to our house? Lily begged. Please, we want to play princesses, and we need her castle. I don't think... Emily started. Please, Mommy. Mia's eyes were huge. I'll be so good. The most good. The goodest ever. Daniel looked at Emily. It's up to you. No pressure. But for what it's worth, my house is very boring and could use some princesses. Emily wanted to say no. Wanted to maintain boundaries, keep their lives separate, protect herself from whatever complications were building. But Mia's hopeful face won. Okay, but just for a little while. Daniel's house was in Brookline, one of those stately colonials that spoke of old money and good taste. Inside was surprisingly warm, lived-in furniture toys, scattered strategically photos covering every surface. Photos of Sarah were everywhere, beautiful, smiling, alive in a way that made Emily's chest ache for what Daniel and Lily had lost. While the girls played upstairs, Emily stood in the kitchen feeling out of place among the granite counters and expensive appliances. Daniel was making tea, moving through the space with the ease of someone who'd done this alone for too long. "She was a dental hygienist before we got married," Daniel said, following Emily's gaze to a photo on the fridge. "Funny coincidence you working at a dental office." "Small world," Emily murmured. "She worked at a practice in Newton, Dr. Morrison's office. Said he was a good boss, but terrible at—" Emily's blood went cold. "What did you say, Dr. Morrison? Why, I worked there. That's the dental office I worked at. Before I got pregnant, before—" Her mind was racing, pulling up hazy memories. "There was a hygienist named Sarah. I only met her a few times before she left, but—" Daniel had gone very still. "You knew her?" "Not well. We worked different shifts mostly, but I remember her. She brought cookies for everyone on birthdays. She had this laugh that you could hear across the whole office." "That was Sarah." Daniel's voice was barely audible. They stared at each other, the impossible coincidence hanging between them. Emily had checked in Sarah Hayes for appointments, had made small talk about weekend plans, had seen her name in the system and never connected it to the man now standing in front of her. "I didn't know," Emily whispered. "When you hired me, I didn't realize—" "Neither did I. You said you worked at a dental office, but I never—" He rubbed his face. "God, Sarah talked about the women she worked with sometimes. About an Emily who was always early, always organized. That was you. I don't know, maybe—" The sound of giggles drifted down from upstairs. Normal child sounds in a house haunted by impossible connections. "Does this change things?" Daniel asked. "I don't know what this is to change." "Neither do I." He handed her the tea, their fingers brushing briefly. "But it feels like something, doesn't it? Like the universe is trying to tell us something." Emily took the tea, held it for warmth rather than drinking. "Or it's just a coincidence. Boston's not that big. People cross paths." "You really believe that?" She didn't. Couldn't. The threads connecting their lives felt too deliberate, too impossible to be random. But admitting that meant admitting something else, that whatever was building between them was more than gratitude, more than friendship, more than two parents navigating their broken pieces together. Upstairs, something crashed. Both of them jumped, parent instincts kicking in, but it was followed immediately by laughter. "We're okay," Lily's voice called down. "Just building a really big castle." Daniel smiled. "Famous last words." They went upstairs to check anyway, found the girls surrounded by every pillow and blanket in the house, constructing something that defied physics and logic. Mia saw Emily and beamed. "Mommy, look. We made the biggest castle in the whole world." And standing there watching her daughter play in this beautiful house with this kind child and this complicated man, Emily felt her careful defenses crumbling. She'd spent 3 years building walls, keeping herself safe from disappointment and heartbreak and the kind of hope that led to devastation. But Mia's joy was an earthquake, and Daniel's quiet kindness was a wrecking ball, and Emily was terrified she was about to let them both tear down everything she'd worked so hard to protect. "It's beautiful," she managed. "The best castle I've ever seen." Mia's smile could have powered the city, and Emily knew in that moment that she was in serious trouble. The trouble started small, the way trouble always does. On Monday, Emily arrived at work to find a Starbucks coffee on her desk. Her exact order: grande iced caramel macchiato with extra caramel drizzle. The kind of specific that meant someone had paid attention. Michelle glanced over from her desk. "Secret admirer." "I don't know, there's no name." "Check with reception. They log all deliveries." But reception had no record. The coffee had simply appeared. Emily drank it anyway, told herself it was probably Marcus being nice, and tried to focus on the mountain of claims that needed processing. Wednesday, it happened again. Same coffee, same mysterious appearance. This time, Tasha from HR was in the break room when Emily walked in, staring at the cup in her hand. "Let me guess," Tasha said, stirring sugar into her own coffee. "No note, no delivery record, your exact order." Emily's stomach dropped. "How did you—" "Because Rebecca in accounting got one last month. Amanda in marketing the month before that." Tasha's voice was carefully neutral. "Always women. Always their exact order. Always anonymous." "Who's sending them? Who do you think?" Tasha raised an eyebrow. "The CEO, who happens to be a widower with more money than sense and a habit of playing knight in shining armor." "Daniel wouldn't." "Daniel." Tasha's expression shifted. "You're on a first-name basis with Mr. Hayes." Emily realized her mistake too late. "We've met a few times. His daughter is friends with mine." "Of course she is." Tasha's smile was sharp. "Look, Emily, I like you. You seem nice. But you need to be careful. This company has rules about fraternization, and Hayes has been, let's call it, vulnerable since his wife died. People take advantage." "I'm not taking advantage of anything." "I didn't say you were. I'm saying it might look like you are." Emily threw away the coffee without drinking it. That afternoon, she marched up to the executive floor, something benefits coordinators never did, and demanded to see Daniel. His assistant, a formidable woman named Patricia, looked amused. "Mr. Hayes is in a meeting. Can I take a message?" "Tell him Emily Clarke needs 5 minutes. Now." Something in her tone must have registered because Patricia actually stood up, disappeared into Daniel's office, and emerged 30 seconds later. "He'll see you." Daniel was alone, papers spread across a conference table, looking tired in a way his suits tried to hide. He smiled when she walked in, then saw her face, and the smile died. "What's wrong?" "The coffee. Stop sending me coffee." "What coffee?" "Don't play dumb. My exact order mysteriously appearing on my desk, no delivery record. Tasha says you do this for women in the company, and I need you to stop." Daniel's expression went from confused to angry in seconds. "I have never sent you coffee. I don't send anyone coffee. What the hell is Tasha talking about?" The certainty in his voice made Emily pause. "You didn't?" "No. And if someone's making people think I did, I want to know who." He pulled out his phone, texted someone. "Patricia, can you come in here?" His assistant appeared instantly. Daniel explained the situation in clipped tones. Patricia's face went through several expressions before settling on fury. "I'll check security footage," she said. "But Mr. Hayes, you should know there's been a pattern of gifts showing up for various female employees over the past 6 months. Flowers, coffee, chocolates. HR's been trying to track it down." "Why wasn't I informed?" "Because you were dealing with—" Patricia stopped. "Because we didn't want to bother you with office drama." "Office drama that makes me look like a creep." Emily felt her certainty crumbling. "I'm sorry. I thought Tasha said—" "Tasha says a lot of things." Daniel's jaw was tight. "Patricia, I want this figured out by end of day. And Emily," he turned to her, "I would never do something like that. Especially not to you." "Why especially not me?" "Because you'd think exactly what you're thinking, that I'm trying to buy your, I don't know, gratitude affection. I'm not that guy, Emily." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But trust was a luxury she'd learned not to afford. Patricia's investigation took 3 days. The answer, when it came, was worse than Emily imagined. The gifts weren't from Daniel. They were from Steve Harrison, a senior manager in operations who'd been subtly harassing women for months by sending presents and then spreading rumors that the CEO was doing it. Playing on Daniel's widower status, his visible grief, making him look inappropriate, while Harrison himself stayed clean. When Patricia told Emily, she felt sick. "I need to apologize. You need to let HR handle this." Patricia interrupted. Mr. Hayes is meeting with legal right now. Harrison's being fired, but Emily between us. You weren't wrong to be suspicious. You were wrong about who to suspect. The next week was a circus. Harrison was escorted out by security yelling about lawsuits and persecution. 3 other women came forward with stories of his behavior. The company memo about new harassment policies hit everyone's inbox. And through it all, Emily avoided Daniel, completely mortified by her accusation, by how quickly she'd assumed the worst. Then Friday evening, as she was picking up Mia from childcare, she found him waiting by the entrance. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "I know. I'm so sorry. Not here. Can you?" He glanced at Mia, who was showing her teacher a drawing. "Can you meet me somewhere tomorrow, maybe? Without the kids?" Emily's chest tightened. This felt like a firing, like the end of whatever fragile thing they'd been building. "Mrs. Chen can watch Mia for a few hours. The cafe on Newberry Street, 10 a.m. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling, matching Emily's mood. She'd barely slept, playing out worst-case scenarios, losing her job, losing Daniel's friendship, having to explain to Mia why they couldn't see Lily anymore. She wore her nicest jeans and the sweater her sister had sent for Christmas, armor against whatever was coming. Daniel was already there in a corner booth, 2 coffees waiting. He stood when she approached, and the formality of it made her want to cry. "I didn't know what you liked," he said, gesturing to the cups. "So I got both regular and decaf." "Regular's good." She slid into the booth, wrapped her hands around the cup for something to do. "Daniel, let me go first." He took a breath. "Patricia told me what you said to her, about how you're used to kindness having strings attached, about how every time something good happened in your life, it came with a price." Emily's throat closed. "I need you to understand something. I'm not trying to rescue you. I'm not trying to fix you or save you or turn you into some project that makes me feel better about my dead wife." His voice was raw. "I'm trying to be your friend. Maybe more than your friend eventually if you wanted. But mostly, I'm trying not to drown Emily. And being around you and Mia reminds me how to swim. I accused you of something a lot of men would do. You weren't wrong to be careful. You were wrong about me specifically, but not wrong to have walls up." He leaned forward. "But here's what I need you to know. Those walls, I'm not trying to tear them down. I'm just asking if maybe you'd open the door sometimes. Let me in as a friend. No expectations. No debts. Just 2 people trying to figure out life with kids who happen to like each other." Emily's vision blurred. "The kids definitely like each other." "Yeah, they do." He smiled slightly. "And their parents are significantly more complicated." "I don't know how to do this," Emily admitted. "How to accept help without feeling like I owe something. How to trust that you're not going to change your mind and take it all back. You think I'd do that? I think people do that. Mia's father promised forever. My parents promised to always be there, and then they died in a car accident when I was 22. My sister promised we'd always be close, and then she moved 3,000 miles away." The words tumbled out, years of hurt compressed into seconds. "Everyone leaves, Daniel. Or they stay, but make you wish they'd left. So forgive me if I'm not great at trusting the nice widower CEO who appeared out of nowhere and changed my life." The silence stretched. Emily waited for him to leave, to realize she was too damaged, too difficult, too much work. Instead, Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. Just held it. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, real in a way that made her breath catch. "I'm not going anywhere," he said quietly. "I'm not your father, or your ex, or your sister. I'm just a guy who's tired of being alone and thinks maybe you're tired of it too. What if the kids get attached, and then we deal with it, together?" He squeezed her hand. "Emily, I can't promise I won't screw this up. I probably will multiple times. But I can promise I won't disappear. I won't make you guess where you stand. And I won't ever make you feel like you owe me something for basic human decency." Something in Emily's chest cracked open. Not breaking blooming. The terrifying kind of hope that hurt more than cynicism ever had. "The kids want to go to the aquarium next week," she heard herself say. Lily mentioned it at the last playdate. Daniel's smile was sunrise after endless night. Lily's been planning the trip in her head for days. She has a list. Of course she does. It's color-coded. Of course it is. They sat there, hands still linked across the table, while rain drummed against the windows and the cafe filled with Saturday morning crowds. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't a relationship. It was just two people deciding to try, and for now, that was enough. The aquarium trip happened the following Saturday, and it was chaos in the best possible way. Lily did indeed have a color-coded list organized by priority and species, which she consulted with the seriousness of a general planning an invasion. Mia, by contrast, wanted to see everything immediately, and in no particular order, which led to several negotiations that Daniel mediated with the patience of someone who'd clearly done this before. Emily bought the tickets before Daniel could, a small act of independence that felt important. He didn't argue, just smiled and said, "Next time's on me." The assumption that there would be a next time settled warm in her chest. They spent 3 hours wandering through underwater tunnels, watching Mia's face light up at the sea turtles, listening to Lily explain facts about penguins she'd memorized from books. At one point, standing in the shark tank tunnel with water and shadow surrounding them, Daniel's hand found Emily's again. "This is nice," he said quietly, while the girls pressed their faces to the glass. "It is." And Emily meant it. For once, she wasn't calculating costs or waiting for disaster. She was just here in this moment with this man and these children, and the strange new possibility of happiness. Then Monday arrived and shattered everything. The eviction notice was taped to her apartment door when she got home from work. 30 days. The building had been sold. New owners wanted to renovate all tenants in units under a certain square footage were being displaced. Legal, probably. Devastating, definitely. Emily stood in the hallway, Mia holding her hand, and felt the world tilt. The apartment was a shoebox, yes, but it was their shoebox. Affordable. Close to the T. Safe enough. She'd been building towards stability here, and now. "Mommy, why does it say we have to leave?" "It's complicated, baby." "Is it because I was loud? I'll be quieter, I promise." No, it's not you." Emily crouched down, held Mia's face. "This isn't about you. The building just needs to change some things." But Mia's eyes were filling with tears, and Emily's own weren't far behind. 30 days to find a new place. First month, last month. Security deposit in a city where rents had climbed while her salary, good as it was, hadn't caught up yet. She spent that night on rental websites, each listing more depressing than the last. Everything in her price range was farther from work, or in neighborhoods she wouldn't walk through alone, or required income verification at 3 times the rent. Something she barely qualified for, even now. By Wednesday, panic had set in. By Friday, she was considering moving in with 3 roommates in Quincy, a 45-minute commute each way, splitting a bathroom with strangers. She didn't tell Daniel. Didn't tell anyone at work. Just kept searching, kept calculating, kept trying to hold together with string and prayer, and the fragile hope that something would work out. Then Saturday came another playdate, and Lily took one look at Mia and asked why she was sad. "We have to move," Mia said, voice small. "Mommy says we have to leave our home." Daniel's eyes snapped to Emily. "What?" "It's fine. We'll figure it out." "Emily." His tone left no room for deflection. The girls ran off to play, and Daniel steered Emily to the kitchen. "What happened?" She told him. The notice, the timeline, the impossible math of Boston rent. He listened without interrupting, face growing darker with each sentence. "Stay at my guest house." "No." "Emily." "No." Her voice was sharp. "I'm not doing this. I'm not becoming your charity case. Your pity project, the poor single mom you rescued. It's not pity. Then what is it? Coincidence that the woman you helped at the grocery store, who you gave a job to, who your whatever we're doing just happens to need housing, and you conveniently have an extra house. I have a 3-bedroom guest house sitting empty that my wife designed for family visits that never happen because her family hates me. Daniel's voice cracked. It's just sitting there, Emily, doing nothing, being nothing. Let it be useful, please. And what do I pay you? Market rate I can't afford. Discount rent that makes me feel like I'm being managed. Nothing which makes me feel like I'm being kept. You pay utilities, help with groceries when you're there, and you let Lily have a friend next door. He ran his hands through his hair. This isn't me trying to control you. This is me offering a short-term solution while you find something permanent. 1 month, 2 months, however long you need. People will talk. People always talk. Let them. Emily wanted to say yes, wanted to collapse into the easy solution, the safe harbor, the offer of help from someone who seemed to genuinely care. But accepting felt like admitting defeat, like proving every suspicious person right, like giving up the independence she'd fought so hard to maintain. I need to think about it. You have 3 weeks. I know how much time I have. The drive home was silent, Mia sensing the tension curling up in her car seat without her usual chatter. Emily carried her sleeping daughter upstairs, laid her in bed, and then sat in their tiny living room surrounded by second-hand furniture and hard-won stability, trying to figure out which kind of pride she could afford to keep. The decision was made for her on Wednesday. Emily was at work processing a particularly complicated disability claim when her phone rang. Mrs. Chen's number. Emily, you need to come to Mia's school, now. Her heart stopped. What happened? She collapsed during afternoon activities. They're saying she's okay, but they called an ambulance to be safe. Emily didn't hear the rest. She grabbed her purse, told Marcus it was an emergency, and ran. The ride to Children's Hospital was a blur of traffic and terror and prayers to a God she wasn't sure she believed in. Please let her be okay. Please, 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 let her be okay. She'd give anything, her job, her pride, her life, if Mia was just okay. The emergency room was controlled chaos. Emily found the desk, gasped out her daughter's name, and was directed to a bay, where Mia lay on a bed that was far too big for her, hooked up to monitors that beeped with terrifying authority. Mommy? Mia's voice was weak but present, and Emily grabbed her hand like a lifeline. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. What happened? A doctor appeared, young and kind and efficient. Ms. Clarke, I'm Dr. Martinez. Mia had what looks like a vasovagal episode. She fainted. Her vitals are stable now, but we want to run some tests. When did she last eat? Emily's mind went blank. Breakfast. I packed her lunch, but I don't know if she didn't eat it, a voice said behind her. Mrs. Chen wringing her hands. She said she wasn't hungry. I thought maybe just a bug. Has this happened before? Dr. Martinez was making notes. Any dizziness, fatigue, irregular eating patterns? And Emily realized with horror that she didn't know. She'd been working so hard, so many hours, juggling so many things. Had Mia been eating enough? Sleeping enough? She thought back over the past few weeks, the lighter lunches she'd packed to save money. Mia's complaints about being tired that Emily had attributed to growing the way her clothes had seemed slightly looser. She's been stressed, Emily whispered. About the move. About everything. I didn't realize. Kids internalize stress in different ways. Sometimes it manifests physically. Dr. Martinez's voice was gentle. We'll run a full workup, blood work, EKG, the standard protocol. Insurance information. Emily's hands shook as she handed over the card. Hayes Enterprises Insurance. Good insurance. The kind that would cover this probably, but there would still be copays and deductibles and bills she couldn't quite afford while also saving for a new apartment. The math was impossible. All the math was always impossible. Dr. Martinez left to order tests. Mrs. Chen apologized a dozen times before Emily convinced her it wasn't her fault. And then it was just Emily and Mia in a curtained bay, and Mia's small voice asking, "Am I going to die like Lily's mommy?" The question was a knife. "No, baby, no. You just got dizzy because you didn't eat enough. The doctors are going to check everything, and you're going to be completely fine. Promise." Emily had learned not to make promises she couldn't keep. But she looked at her daughter's scared face and lied anyway. "I promise." The tests took hours. Blood draws that made Mia cry, an EKG that required stickers. Mia insisted on keeping a consultation with a pediatric specialist who asked questions about home life that made Emily feel like the worst mother alive. Through it all, she held Mia's hand and tried not to fall apart. It was nearly 8 p.m. when Dr. Martinez returned with results. Everything was technically normal. No heart issues, no blood sugar problems, no underlying conditions. Just a kid under stress who'd skipped too many meals and whose body had said enough. "Make sure she eats regularly," Dr. Martinez advised. "Small, frequent meals. Keep her hydrated, and consider talking to someone about the stress, a school counselor maybe, or a family therapist." Family therapy. Another expense. Another thing Emily couldn't quite afford, but couldn't not do. They were processing discharge papers when Daniel appeared in the doorway. Lily's hand in his, both of them looking frantic. "I called him," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "I thought, I'm sorry, I didn't know who else. Is she okay?" Daniel's eyes found. Mia took in the monitors, the IV, the hospital gown. "She's fine. Just fainted. We're going home soon." "Mia." Lily pushed past her father, climbed right onto the bed. "Are you sick? Do you have the cancer like my mommy had?" "Lily." Daniel moved to stop her, but Mia was already shaking her head. "No cancer, just dizzy. The doctor said I have to eat more." "Oh good, you can eat my snacks. I have so many." The simple logic of 4-year-olds diffused some of the tension. Emily finished the paperwork, gathered Mia's things, and when she turned around, Daniel was talking quietly with Dr. Martinez. "All taken care of," she heard him say. "Send the bills to my office." Rage flooded through her. "Excuse me." Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. "I'll just—" She fled. Emily faced Daniel, keeping her voice low only because of the children. "What did you just do?" "I paid the hospital bill." "You had no right." "I have every right. Lily's on my insurance as my dependent. I just added Mia to the policy too." "You what?" "Emergency authorization. Healthcare regulations allow temporary coverage in crisis situations for minors in the company's employee families. That's not legal." "It's completely legal. I had Patricia double-check with legal. You work for my company. Mia's your dependent. This qualifies as emergency care." "Stop." Emily's voice shook. "Just stop. Stop managing my life. Stop throwing money at my problems. Stop making me feel like I can't take care of my own daughter without you swooping in to save the day." "Emily." "No." The word came out too loud. Both girls looked over, faces uncertain. Emily lowered her voice but couldn't dial back the fury. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for any of this. The job, the help, the whatever this is between us. I can handle my own life, Daniel." "Can you?" His voice was quiet but cut like glass. "Because from where I'm standing, you're drowning and refusing the life preserver because accepting help would hurt your pride." "My pride is all I have left." "No. You have Mia. You have a good job. You have people who care about you." He stepped closer. "You have me if you'd let yourself admit that means something." The air between them crackled. Emily was aware of Mrs. Chen watching, of the girl's curiosity, of a dozen hospital staff pretending not to eavesdrop. "I need to take Mia home." "Let me drive you." "I can take the tea." With an exhausted 4-year-old at 8:30 p.m., Emily for once just... He stopped himself, breathed. Please, let me help." Emily wanted to refuse, wanted to grab Mia and storm out and prove she could do this alone. But Mia was already half asleep against Lily, and the thought of navigating the tea right now made her want to cry, and she was so tired of being strong when being weak would be so much easier. "Fine, but we're talking about this. Tomorrow, when you're not exhausted and terrified." He moved to scoop Mia up gentle despite the IV bruises, and Mia curled into him like it was natural, like he was safe, like he was family, and that Emily realized was the real problem. It was all becoming too natural, too easy, too much like the family they weren't and could never be. Daniel was her boss and her landlord and her daughter's friend's father, and something else entirely that she couldn't define and was terrified to name. The drive to Emily's apartment was quiet. Mia fell asleep immediately. Lily entertained herself with a picture book. Emily stared out the window and felt the weight of every decision she'd made and hadn't made pressing down until she couldn't breathe. When they arrived, Daniel carried Mia upstairs while Emily unlocked the door. He laid her in bed with a gentleness that made Emily's chest ache, tucked her in, with the precision of someone who'd done this often for his own daughter. In the living room, with Lily coloring on the floor and Mia safe in bed, they faced each other. "I can't live in your guest house," Emily said. "Okay." She'd expected argument, the easy agreement through her. "Okay, it's your choice. But Emily, hear me when I say this, you staying there isn't about me. It's about Lily having someone next door. It's about Mia having stability during a transition. It's about you having breathing room to find the right place instead of taking the first shitty apartment that accepts your application. And what do you get out of it?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I get to feel less alone. I get to remember what it's like to have someone to talk to after Lily goes to bed. I get to pretend for a little while that my house isn't a mausoleum to my dead wife." The raw honesty of it stole Emily's breath. "But if that's not enough reason for you, fine. If you need to do this the hard way to prove something to yourself, I understand. Just..." His voice caught. "Just take care of Mia. And yourself. Please." He gathered Lily and left before Emily could respond. The door closed behind them with a quiet click that sounded like finality, and Emily stood in her tiny apartment surrounded by eviction notices and hospital bracelets and the ruins of her carefully constructed independence, and finally let herself cry. Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table with a calculator, a notepad, and rental listings that all blurred together into impossible numbers. Every apartment she could afford was too far or too dangerous. Every safe option cost more than she made. The math didn't work. No matter how many times she recalculated, rearranged, sacrificed, the equation remained stubbornly unsolvable. At 3 a.m., she finally admitted defeat. At 7 a.m., she texted Daniel, "We'll take the guest house. Temporary. Until I find something permanent." His response came immediately, like he'd been waiting. "Thank you. Move in whenever you're ready. No rush." But there was rush. 17 days until eviction. Emily spent the next week in a fog of packing, sorting, deciding what to keep and what to donate and what to throw away. Every item felt like a judgment: the dishes she'd bought at Goodwill, the furniture from college that she'd kept far too long, the evidence of her life measured in second-hand everything. Mia handled the move with the adaptability of children excited about living near Lily, unconcerned with the complicated adult emotions making Emily's chest tight. On moving day, Daniel showed up with a truck and Marcus from work and Tom Bradford from the birthday party, all of them helping carry boxes, like this was normal, like Emily hadn't spent years learning to do everything alone. The guest house was smaller than Daniel's main house, but larger than Emily's apartment. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a living room with windows overlooking a garden that Sarah had apparently designed. Everything was tasteful, expensive, the kind of space Emily would never have chosen for herself, because she'd never imagined she deserved it. Lily helped pick out sheets for Mia's room, Daniel said, carrying in the last box. "I hope that's okay. She was very specific about purple. Emily found the bedroom painted soft lavender with white furniture and a bookshelf already filled with children's books and curtains that matched perfectly. Her throat closed. Daniel, this is too much. It was Lily's project. Made her happy. He set down the box. Kitchens stocked with basics. Lily's rules say you have to come for dinner tonight because it's Friday, and Friday is pizza night, and apparently we can't have pizza night without Mia now. We should probably establish boundaries. We will, tomorrow. Tonight just let the girls be happy. He smiled, tired but genuine. Let yourself be happy, Emily. Just for one night. That night, sitting in Daniel's kitchen with pizza and juice boxes, and two little girls who'd somehow become inseparable, Emily felt something she'd almost forgotten. Peace. Not the fragile kind built on exhaustion and low expectations, but real peace. The kind that came from laughter and full stomachs, and the sense that maybe finally she could stop waiting for disaster. Mia fell asleep on Daniel's couch after dinner, curled up with Lily, both of them sticky with pizza sauce and contentment. Emily moved to carry her back to the guest house, but Daniel stopped her. Let them sleep, just for a bit. So they sat, two parents in comfortable silence, watching their daughters breathe in sync, and Emily wondered if this was what normal people's lives felt like. If this ease, this simple quiet joy, was something other people took for granted, while she'd been fighting for scraps. Sarah designed this room, Daniel said quietly, looking around. She wanted it to feel like family could gather here. Ironic since her family stopped coming after she died. Why? Because they blamed me. His voice was matter-of-fact, but laced with old hurt. For not catching the cancer sooner. For not trying some experimental treatment in Switzerland. For not being rich enough or connected enough or magical enough to save her. That's not fair. Grief isn't fair. And they needed someone to blame who wasn't the universe. He turned to Emily. They wanted Lily. Fought for custody for about 6 months before their lawyer convinced them they had no case. Haven't seen them since. Emily's heart cracked for this man who'd lost his wife, and then lost half his family in the aftermath. Lily asks about them. Sometimes, I tell her they're busy. She's 4, she believes me. He rubbed his face. In a few years she'll ask harder questions. I'm dreading it. You'll handle it. You're a good father. I'm a father who lets his daughter watch too much TV and eat cereal for dinner sometimes, and probably needs therapy but can't quite make himself schedule it. So a normal parent then. Daniel laughed, the sound rusty but real. When did you get so wise? When I stopped pretending I had all the answers. They carried the sleeping girls to bed eventually. Mia to her new purple room. Lily to her own space upstairs. At the door to the guest house, Daniel hesitated. I meant what I said, about not being alone. You being here, it helps. Emily wanted to say something profound, something that matched the weight of what they were building. Instead, she just touched his hand briefly. It helps me too. The first week in the guest house was an adjustment. Emily kept expecting rules, restrictions, rent reminders, all the normal landmine navigation of depending on someone else. But Daniel was scarce during work hours, respectful of boundaries, only appearing for the dinners that Lily insisted on with increasing frequency. The girls developed routines. Afternoon playdates after childcare, weekend adventures to parks and museums, a language of friendship that needed no translation. And slowly, Emily began to relax into the rhythm of it. Then one evening, 2 weeks into the new arrangement, Emily returned from grocery shopping to find Daniel and Mia at his piano. No, like this, Daniel was saying, his hands guiding Mia's smaller ones across the keys. See, that's a C chord. Mia's face was scrunched in concentration, her tongue poking out the way it did when she was trying hard. Like this. Exactly like that. You're a natural. Emily stood in the doorway, bags still in hand, watching her daughter do something that had never been financially or logistically possible before. Piano lessons. Music. The kind of enrichment that belonged to kids with different lives. Daniel looked up, caught her expression. I'm sorry, I should have asked first. Lily wanted to show Mia her piano, and then Mia wanted to try, and I thought, it's fine. Emily's voice was thick. It's more than fine. That became another routine. 3 evenings a week, while Emily made dinner in the guest house, Daniel taught both girls piano. Nothing formal, nothing pressured, just simple songs and patient guidance, and the sound of childish laughter mixing with music. Emily started cooking more elaborately than she had in years. Not because she had to impress anyone, but because for the first time, she had the time and energy to do more than just survive. She made casseroles and roasted chicken and homemade pasta sauce, and somewhere along the way, Daniel's kitchen became as familiar as her own. You don't have to cook for us, he said one night, appearing in the guest house kitchen where Emily was chopping vegetables. I'm cooking for me and Mia, there's just extra. Emily. Let me do this, Daniel, please. I need to feel like I'm contributing something. He studied her for a moment, then picked up a knife. Then let me help. I'm terrible at it, but Sarah always said I had potential. They cooked together after that, a dance of passing ingredients and shared tasks and conversation that flowed easier than Emily had expected. Daniel told stories about Sarah's disastrous attempts at Thanksgiving dinner. Emily shared memories of her parents, the good parts before the accident. They talked about work and childcare and the mundane details of life that felt profound in their normalcy. One night, after the girls were asleep and they'd cleaned up dinner, Daniel opened a bottle of wine. They sat in his living room, the space that used to be Sarah's domain, and for the first time, Emily let herself ask the question that had been nagging at her. Do you ever resent me for being here in her house with her daughter? Daniel was quiet for a long time. No, but I resent myself sometimes. For what? For how much easier it is to breathe when you're around. He looked at his wine glass instead of her. Sarah died 2 years ago, and I spent those 2 years drowning in grief and guilt, and the weight of raising Lily alone. Then you appeared at SaveMart, and suddenly I remembered what it felt like to want to help someone instead of being the one who needed help. I still need help. We all need help, but you fight so hard against it, and that reminded me I'd stopped fighting at all. He finally met her eyes. You saved me too, Emily. Not in the dramatic way I helped you with groceries, but in the slow way. The way that made me remember I'm still alive. Emily's heart hammered. They were crossing into territory she'd been avoiding, the space where gratitude became something else entirely. Daniel. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. She pulled it out, frowning, and felt the blood drain from her face. It was a text from her sister in California. What the hell, you're on the news. Below it a link. Emily clicked with shaking hands. The headline screamed across a gossip website. Millionaire Hayes' secret family CEO spotted with mystery woman and baby. Below were photos. Daniel carrying Mia at the aquarium. Emily and Daniel cooking together through the kitchen window. The two families at the park looking for all the world like one family. Lily and Mia holding hands. Oh God! Emily's voice was barely a whisper. Daniel leaned over, saw the screen, and cursed. How did they? Does it matter? Emily was scrolling, reading the speculation, the comments calling her a gold digger, a homewrecker, worse. They're saying I moved in to trap you, that I'm using Mia to manipulate you into... Her phone kept buzzing. More texts. More links. Someone had found her social media limited as it was. Someone had connected her to Hayes Enterprises. The comments were vicious, dissecting her clothes, her appearance, her worth. I have to leave. Emily stood abruptly. I have to get Mia and leave before this gets worse. Emily, stop. You don't understand. This will ruin everything. Your reputation, my job, Mia's chance at a normal life. I don't care about any of that. Well, I do. Her voice rose sharp enough to maybe wake the girls. She lowered it, trembling. I care that people think I'm some opportunist who saw a vulnerable widower and pounced. I care that Mia's going to see these articles someday. I care that everyone at work who already thought I slept my way into my job now has proof. It's not proof of anything, except that we're friends. Are we? Emily's laugh was bitter. Friends don't move into each other's guest houses. Friends don't cook dinner together every night. Friends don't look at each other the way you're looking at me right now. Daniel flinched. The truth hung between them, finally spoken, and Emily wanted to take it back and lean into it simultaneously. I'll make a statement, Daniel said finally. I'll tell them you're an employee dealing with housing issues and I offered temporary assistance. That's all. That makes it worse. That makes me look like charity. Then what do you want me to say? Emily didn't know. Every option felt like losing. She grabbed her purse, headed for the door, needed air and space and distance from this man who'd somehow become too important too fast. I need to think. Emily, please? But she was already gone back to the guest house. Door closed, phone still buzzing with judgment from strangers who'd turned her life into entertainment. She spent the night researching apartments again, making plans to leave rebuilding walls she'd been foolish enough to let crumble. At dawn, she finally fell asleep, and when she woke, Mia was standing by her bed holding Lily's hand, both girls looking worried. "Mommy, why are you sad?" Mia asked. "I'm not sad, baby. Just tired." "Lily says we have to move again. Is that true?" Emily looked at Lily, who had Daniel's serious eyes and too much understanding for a 4-year-old. "Did your dad tell you that?" "No, but he was crying on the phone, and you always leave when adults cry." The observation delivered with childish certainty cracked something in Emily's chest. How many times had Lily watched adults disappear from her life, her mother to cancer, her grandparents to blame and grief, and now Emily preparing to run because staying was too hard. "I'm not leaving," Emily heard herself say before she'd fully decided. "Not yet. There's some grown-up stuff happening, and I need to figure it out." "If you leave, my dad will be sad again," Lily said simply. "He stopped being sad when you came. Please don't make him sad." And there it was. The weight of other people's healing placed on Emily's shoulders, exactly what she'd been trying to avoid. But looking at Lily's face, so much like Daniel's, so much like Sarah's, in the photos, Emily couldn't find it in herself to resent it. "Let's have breakfast," she said instead. "And then we'll figure everything out." But everything figured itself out before she could stop it. Monday morning, Emily arrived at work to find the entire benefits coordination team huddled around Michelle's computer. They scattered when they saw her guilt written across every face. "What?" Emily demanded. Michelle, to her credit, turned the screen so Emily could see. A press release from Hayes Enterprises time-stamped 6 a.m. that morning. Hayes Enterprises CEO Daniel Hayes issued the following statement regarding recent media speculation. Ms. Emily Clarke is a valued employee and friend. Following the unexpected sale of her apartment building, I offered temporary housing assistance while she searches for permanent accommodations, the same assistance Hayes Enterprises offers to any employee facing housing instability. Ms. Clarke is an exemplary benefits coordinator hired on merit through our standard interview process, and any suggestion otherwise is both false and damaging to her professional reputation. More personally, Emily's daughter and mine have formed a close friendship. Our families spend time together because our children enjoy each other's company. There is nothing inappropriate, secretive, or scandalous about two single parents supporting each other while raising their kids. I will not be commenting further on my personal life. However, I will be pursuing legal action against any publication that continues to spread false narratives about Ms. Clarke or uses unauthorized photographs of our children. These are families, not tabloid fodder. The office was silent. Emily read it twice, 3 times, trying to process what Daniel had done. He'd protected her, defended her, drawn a line in the sand between private life and public consumption. But he'd also made it real, made them public, made whatever was between them something the world could see and judge and dissect. So, Tasha's voice came from behind her. You and the CEO, huh? Emily turned. Tasha's expression wasn't hostile. It was curious, almost impressed. We're not. Honey, that statement reads like a man defending someone he cares about. A lot. Tasha smiled. For what it's worth, I believe him. About the job, I mean. Marcus doesn't hire duds, and you're actually good at this. Everything else? She shrugged. That's between you two. Marcus called Emily into his office an hour later. She went prepared to be fired to defend herself, to salvage whatever she could from the wreckage. Instead, Marcus gestured to the chair across from his desk. How are you holding up? The kindness undid her. I don't know. For the record, I hired you because you were qualified. Daniel sent you my way, yes, but I conduct my own interviews. Make my own decisions. Marcus leaned back. I don't care about office gossip. I care about performance. You're performing well. So as far as I'm concerned, whatever your relationship with Hayes is, it's not my business unless it affects your work. It won't. Then we're good. He paused. But Emily, between us, that man just publicly defended you in a way that's going to have reporters camped outside his house for weeks. Make sure whatever you two are doing is worth it. Emily nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The day dragged. Emily fielded benefits calls, processed claims, pretended normalcy, while her phone exploded with messages from people she barely remembered. Old coworkers, distant cousins, her sister calling every hour. She ignored all of it until pickup time. When she arrived at childcare, other parents stared, whispered. One mother actually approached with a sympathetic smile. I just want you to know, I think it's wonderful. What Mr. Hayes is doing. My sister went through a divorce last year, and if someone had offered her housing assistance, it would have changed everything. Emily managed a weak smile, collected Mia, and headed back to the guest house with her daughter chattering about her day, oblivious to the adult drama. Daniel's car was already in the driveway when they arrived. He was sitting on the guest house porch, still in his work suit, looking exhausted. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I should have consulted you before releasing that statement. I woke up to 17 missed calls from my PR team, and someone had called the office trying to get your personnel file, and I reacted. Emily sat beside him, Mia running inside to find Lily. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Emily, I won't let people turn you into a villain for accepting help. I won't let them make Mia collateral damage in their need for scandal. But now everyone knows. Everyone knows we're friends whose kids are friends. That's it. That's all I said. He turned to face her. Unless you want me to say something else. The question hung heavy between them. Emily thought about Lily's plea that morning, about the past month of dinners and laughter, and the slow rebuilding of something she'd thought was dead hope. She thought about how Daniel looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, like she was something precious instead of something broken. I don't know what I want, she admitted. I'm terrified of wanting anything because wanting things has only ever led to losing them. I'm terrified too. Daniel's voice was raw. Sarah was my everything. For 8 years, she was my entire world. When she died, I thought that was it. That I'd had my chance at love, and lost it, and would just exist for the rest of my life. Daniel. But then you showed up unable to afford milk for your daughter, and somehow that broke through. Not immediately, not dramatically. Just slowly, you made me remember what it felt like to care about someone's day, someone's struggles, someone's happiness. He looked at his hands. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not asking you to replace Sarah or be Lily's mother or any of that. I'm just asking if maybe we can figure out what this is together instead of me doing it alone. Emily's vision blurred. She thought about running about protecting herself, about all the ways this could end badly. But she also thought about Mia's laughter during piano lessons, about cooking dinner while Daniel chopped vegetables badly, about the feeling of peace that had settled over her life since she'd stopped fighting against help. Lily told me this morning that I make you less sad, Emily said quietly. She asked me not to leave because she doesn't want you sad again. Daniel's breath caught. She said that. She's 4 and she's already watching adults disappear from her life. I won't do that to her, Daniel. If we try this, whatever this is, I need to know you're sure. Because Mia's attached too, and if this falls apart, we're not the only ones who get hurt. I know. He reached for her hand, hesitant, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. I can't promise I won't screw this up. I can't promise it won't be complicated. But I can promise I'm not going anywhere. I'm not Sarah's husband anymore, she's gone. I'm just Daniel, a guy who's terrified and hopeful and wants to try. Emily squeezed his hand, felt the calluses from piano playing the warmth of his palm. I'm terrified too. Then let's be terrified together. Inside, they could hear the girls playing, their laughter floating through open windows. Outside, the garden Sarah had designed was starting to bloom with early summer flowers. And sitting there, hands linked, Emily let herself believe that maybe the universe wasn't cruel, maybe it was just slow, taking its time to bring the right people together in the right ways at the right moments. Friday's pizza night, Daniel said after a while. Lily's rules. I know, she reminds me daily. Stay for it. Not in the guest house. Actually stay. At the table with all of us like... He stopped, couldn't quite finish. Like family, Emily supplied. Yeah, like family. Emily thought about her parents gone too soon, her sister too far away, Mia's father who'd never been present enough to matter. She thought about how family wasn't always blood, wasn't always legal, wasn't always the neat definitions society prescribed. Sometimes family was a widower and his daughter. Sometimes it was a single mom and her child. Sometimes it was 4 people learning to be less lonely together. Okay, Emily said, like family. Daniel's smile was tentative but real, and when Lily and Mia burst out onto the porch demanding snacks, both girls stopped short at the sight of their parents holding hands. Are you boyfriend and girlfriend now? Lily asked with typical 4-year-old bluntness. Emily and Daniel looked at each other, and Emily saw her own uncertainty reflected back. But also hope, also possibility, also the beginning of something neither of them had been looking for, but both desperately needed. We're friends, Daniel said carefully. Really good friends who care about each other a lot. Like best friends? Mia asked. Yeah, baby, like best friends. Lily considered this, then shrugged with a child's easy acceptance. Okay, can we have cookies now? And just like that, the world shifted. Not dramatically, not with fanfare or declarations, just quietly with the simple acceptance of children and the tentative hope of adults learning to try again. That night after pizza and cookies and bedtime stories, Emily stood in the doorway of the guest house, keys in hand, looking back at the main house where lights glowed warm against the darkness. Daniel stood on his porch watching her, and neither of them moved to close the distance or create more of it. They were learning to want without grasping to hope, without expectations, to build something new from the broken pieces of their separate pasts. It wouldn't be easy. The media would dig deeper, co-workers would gossip, life would throw obstacles because life always did. But for the first time in longer than Emily could remember, she believed they might survive it, not alone, not separately, but together, whatever that meant. And as she finally waved goodnight and closed her door, Emily's phone buzzed one more time. A text from Daniel. Thank you for staying, she typed back. Thank you for making it safe to stay. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, Emily fell asleep without calculating rent or counting pennies or planning escape routes. She fell asleep thinking about piano lessons and home-cooked dinners and the sound of 2 little girls laughing. She fell asleep thinking about family, and for once the thought didn't hurt. The media storm lasted 3 weeks, then fizzled when a celebrity couple's divorce proved more entertaining than a CEO and his employee being friends. But those 3 weeks changed everything in ways Emily hadn't anticipated. The first change came from an unexpected source. On a Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after Daniel's statement, Emily found an envelope on her desk at work. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. "Dear Ms. Clarke, my name is Margaret Hayes. I was Sarah's mother. I would very much like to meet you. Please call me." Emily's hands trembled holding the paper. Sarah's mother. The woman who'd blamed Daniel, who'd fought for custody of Lily, who'd disappeared from their lives entirely. And now she wanted to meet. Emily showed Daniel that evening after the girls were in bed. His face went pale, then red, then carefully blank. "You don't have to do this." "What if she wants to see Lily?" "Then I'll handle it. You're not Emily, you don't owe her anything." But something in the letter's careful formality, its tentative reaching out, made Emily curious. What if she's trying? What if losing Sarah made her realize she can't afford to lose Lily too? Or what if she sees you as a threat and wants to assess the competition? "Then I'll handle it." Emily met his eyes. "I can do hard things, Daniel. I've been doing them my whole life." She called Margaret the next day. They met at a cafe in Cambridge neutral territory, and Emily arrived 10 minutes early to prepare herself. Margaret Hayes was striking even in grief, silver hair. Sarah's eyes, a posture that spoke of old money and older grief. "Thank you for coming," Margaret said when Emily sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure I should." "Fair enough." Margaret stirred her tea with precise movements. "I need to apologize for the custody fight, for abandoning Lily, for blaming Daniel when he was the one person who loved my daughter as much as I did." Emily hadn't expected honesty. "Why tell me this?" "Because I saw the photos. Saw my granddaughter holding your daughter's hand, smiling in a way I haven't seen since Sarah got sick." Margaret's voice cracked. "And I realized I've been so focused on my loss that I've been creating more loss. Lily deserves family. Daniel deserves support. And you," she studied Emily carefully, "you deserve to know what you're getting into. Which is a family that eats itself alive with expectations and judgment. Sarah spent years trying to escape it. She loved Daniel because he was real in a way our world never allowed." Margaret pulled out a photo Sarah and Daniel on their wedding day, both glowing with uncomplicated joy. She'd want him happy again. She'd want Lily surrounded by people who love her without conditions. "From what I can see, that's what you're offering." Emily's throat was tight. "I'm not trying to replace her." "Good. No one could. But you can be something new. Something Lily needs just as much." Margaret slid an envelope across the table. "This is a trust fund Sarah set up for Lily's education. I've been the trustee, but I'd like to make you and Daniel co-trustees. I want Lily to know that her mother's family hasn't abandoned her." "I don't understand." "I'm asking for a second chance. Not with Daniel, I burned that bridge thoroughly. But with Lily. Monthly visits, maybe birthday calls, the presence of a grandmother who finally got her head out of her grief long enough to see what matters." Emily thought about Mia, who had no grandparents, about Lily, who'd lost hers to blame and pride. "That's not my decision to make." "But you'll influence it. Daniel trusts you." Margaret's smile was sad. "Sarah would have liked you. You have her steel underneath the softness." The conversation lasted 2 hours. Margaret shared stories about Sarah's childhood, about the girl who'd climbed trees in designer dresses and fought with her parents about every expectation. She talked about the cancer, the treatments, the slow loss that had destroyed her ability to think clearly about anything except the unfairness of it all. When Emily returned to the guest house, she found Daniel pacing in her living room, having let himself in with the spare key she'd given him for emergencies. "Well," his voice was tight with anxiety. "What did she want?" Emily told him everything. watched his face cycle through anger, grief, hope, suspicion. When she finished, he sat down heavily on her couch. She wants back in Lily's life. She wants to try. It's different. Is it? Daniel's laugh was bitter. Emily, you didn't see her during the custody fight. The things she said about me, about my parenting, about how I was too focused on work to properly raise a daughter. She was drowning in grief and needed someone to blame. You told me that yourself. That doesn't excuse. No, it doesn't. But maybe it explains. Emily sat beside him, careful to leave space between them. Lily asks about her grandmother. You said so yourself. Maybe this is a chance for something good to come from something awful. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you think I should do? The question carried weight. He was asking her opinion, trusting her judgment, treating her like a partner in decisions about his daughter. The intimacy of it was almost frightening. I think you should let Margaret visit. Once, supervised. And see if she's really changed, or if this is just guilt talking. And if it goes badly, then we protect Lily. Together. That we hung in the air between them, and Daniel's hand found hers squeezed, once held on. The first visit happened 2 weeks later. Margaret arrived with gifts that weren't too expensive. A carefully neutral smile, and the kind of nervousness that spoke to genuine fear of rejection. Lily was shy at first, hiding behind Daniel's legs, but within an hour, she was showing her grandmother her piano skills and the drawing she'd made of dinosaurs. Emily watched from the kitchen, giving them space, and felt something shift. This wasn't just about Daniel and Emily anymore. This was about building something larger, a chosen family that included broken pieces, learning to fit together differently. Margaret left with promises to call next week to attend Lily's next school performance, to be present in small ways that might grow into something more. Daniel walked her to her car, and when he came back, his eyes were wet. She apologized, he said, voice rough. Really apologized. Said Sarah would have hated who she became after the funeral. Do you believe her? I want to. He pulled Emily close, just held her, and she let herself lean into his warmth. Thank you for pushing me toward this. Thank you for trusting me enough to push. The months that followed developed their own rhythm. Margaret's visits became regular Sunday afternoons, where she'd take Lily to museums or parks, slowly rebuilding trust through consistency. Emily found permanent housing, a small house in Medford, with a mortgage Daniel co-signed over her protests, insisting it was a business investment, and she could pay him back over time. The house was Emily's, really hers, the first thing she'd owned since her parents died. Moving in felt like shedding skin, stepping into a version of herself she'd never quite believed possible. But the girls cried for 3 days about being separated, and within a month, Emily and Mia were still spending more time at Daniel's than their own place. Work settled into competence. Emily got a raise after her 6-month review. Marcus mentioned the possibility of team lead within a year. The gossip faded as people found new topics, and Emily discovered she could walk through the office without feeling every eye judging her. Then, October arrived with the kind of crisp New England weather that made everything feel possible, and Daniel asked Emily on an actual date. Not dinner at home with the kids. Not a museum trip we're chaperoning. An actual date. Just us. He was nervous, stumbling over words in a way that was endearing. If you want. No pressure. We can keep doing whatever this is. Yes. And I'll understand if you're not ready for wait, yes. Emily smiled. Yes. Let's go on a date. They went to a small Italian restaurant in the North End, the kind of place that felt intimate without being overwhelming. Daniel wore a suit that made him look devastatingly handsome. Emily wore a dress her sister had shipped from California with a note saying, "Go get him." They talked about everything and nothing, books and childhood memories and hopes for their daughters, and the way grief changed shape, but never quite left. Halfway through dinner, Daniel reached across the table for Emily's hand. I need to tell you something. Emily's heart stuttered. Okay. I'm falling in love with you. Maybe already have fallen. And I know that's terrifying and complicated and probably way too soon, but I'm tired of pretending this is just friendship or convenience, or whatever safe label we've been using." The restaurant noise faded. Emily stared at this man who'd changed her life with a grocery bill and patience, and the radical act of seeing her as someone worth helping. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. I'm scared this is too good, that I'll wake up and it'll be gone, that I'll finally let myself believe in this and then life will happen because life always happens." Daniel's thumb traced circles on her palm. "But Emily, I'm scared too. I'm terrified that loving you means betraying Sarah, even though logically I know she'd want me happy. I'm scared I'll screw this up, that my grief will resurface at the worst times, that Lily will struggle with the idea of me moving on." So what do? We choose it anyway. We choose each other, scared and messy and imperfect, and we try. Emily thought about the girl she'd been at SaveMart, unable to afford formula, certain the universe was cruel. She thought about the woman she was becoming, learning to accept help, to trust, to hope. "I'm falling for you too," she said, and watched Daniel's face transform with relief and joy. "I don't know how to do this, but I want to learn." He kissed her, then right there in the restaurant, and Emily felt something she'd thought was dead come roaring back to life, the ability to believe in happy endings. The next morning both girls found out, because children notice everything. Lily asked direct questions about kissing and love, and whether this meant Mia would be her sister now. Mia wanted to know if Daniel would be her daddy. Both adults fumbled through explanations about taking things slow, about relationships being different from friendship, about how love was a choice you made every day. "So you choose each other?" Lily asked, head tilted with 4-year-old logic. "Yes," Daniel said simply. "Every day. Every day." "Okay." Lily turned to Mia. "We're basically sisters then. Come on, let's go tell Mr. Whiskers." Mr. Whiskers was Lily's stuffed cat, apparently the authority on family matters. The girls ran off, and Emily looked at Daniel. That was easier than expected. Kids are resilient. They just want to know who's staying. He pulled her close. "I'm staying, Emily. For real this time. Not as your boss or landlord or friend. As the guy who wants to wake up every morning and choose you." Every morning. Every single one. Christmas approached with the kind of momentum that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Margaret had become a fixture in Lily's life, even offering to host Christmas Eve dinner for everyone. Emily's sister flew in from California, shocked by the transformation in Emily's life and charmed by Daniel's quiet steadiness. Even Mrs. Chen joined them for dinner, pleased to see Emily finally settled and happy. Christmas Eve arrived with snow falling soft and perfect outside. Daniel had been mysterious all week, telling Emily to trust him, that he had a surprise. She arrived at his house with Mia to find the dining room transformed candles and greenery, and the kind of elegant simplicity that spoke to careful planning. Dinner was loud and warm, all of them squeezed around a table that wasn't quite big enough, passing dishes and sharing stories, and laughing over Lily's insistence that Santa would definitely bring her the telescope she'd requested. After dessert, after the girls had been convinced to open one present each before bed, Daniel stood and cleared his throat. "I have something for Emily." He handed her an envelope, official-looking, his hands shaking slightly. Emily opened it confused and felt her heart stop. It was a deed. To a house. Not the house in Medford she'd been renting to own. A different house closer to Daniel's, bigger, with both their names on it. "This isn't Daniel, we can't." "It's not a gift. It's a partnership." He knelt beside her chair, voice low enough that only she could hear over the girls' chatter. "I bought it 6 weeks ago, put both our names on it. Not because I'm rescuing you, because I want us to build something together. A place that's ours, not mine with you as a guest, not yours with me visiting. Ours." Emily's vision blurred. "I can't afford half of—" "You're already paying for half through sweat equity. Through cooking dinners and helping Lily with homework and being there at 3 a.m. when I have nightmares about losing Sarah. His eyes were earnest, desperate for her to understand. This isn't about money, Emily. It's about choosing to build a life together. Really together. Around them, the table had gone quiet. Margaret was smiling, tears in her eyes. Emily's sister looked ready to burst with excitement. Mia and Lily had stopped playing with their new toys, watching with the gravity of children who sensed something important. "What do you say?" Daniel asked. "Want to choose this? Choose us." Emily looked at the deed, both their names typed in official print. She thought about a year ago, alone, struggling, certain she'd never be more than survival mode. She thought about milk she couldn't afford, and a stranger who'd paid for it, and all the impossible moments that had led here. "Yes," she whispered. "I choose this. I choose us." Daniel kissed her while everyone cheered, and Lily announced to the room that this meant they were definitely sisters now, and Mia asked if this meant they could get a dog, and Margaret laughed in a way that sounded like healing. Later that night, after everyone had left after the girls were asleep in their respective rooms, Emily and Daniel stood in the kitchen washing dishes in comfortable silence. "I never thanked you properly," Emily said quietly. "For the milk. For all of it. You thank me every day. By being here. By letting me be part of your life. No, I mean—" She stopped trying to find words. "You saved me that day at SaveMart. Not just financially. You saved me from believing I had to do everything alone. From thinking that accepting help meant I was failing." Daniel dried his hands, turned to face her fully. "You saved me too. From grief that was turning into permanent darkness. From forgetting how to live instead of just exist. So we saved each other." "Yeah, I think we did." They stood there close enough to kiss, but not kissing, just being present in the moment. Outside, snow continued to fall. Upstairs, two little girls slept peacefully. And in this kitchen, in this house, two people who'd been broken separately were learning to be whole together. The new year brought changes. Emily and Daniel moved into their shared house in March, a sprawling colonial with enough room for the girls to have their own spaces and everyone to grow. Margaret became a regular presence, teaching Lily to bake Sarah's favorite recipes, sharing stories that kept Sarah's memory alive without making it painful. Emily's sister visited monthly, building relationships with the niece she'd missed so much of, and the man who'd helped her sister finally breathe. At work, Emily was promoted to team lead. Marcus admitted he'd been planning it for months, but wanted to wait until the gossip fully died. The team she led respected her competence, and the whispers about how she got her job became whispers about how she earned her promotion. Mia started kindergarten confident and happy, her early stress-induced health issues a memory. Lily thrived with her grandmother back in her life, and Mia as a constant companion. Both girls called each other sister without hesitation, and Daniel and Emily let them understanding that family was what you built, not just what you were born into. In May, on the anniversary of the day they met at SaveMart, Daniel took Emily back to that same grocery store. They walked the aisles slowly, Emily pushing a cart that was full, instead of strategically sparse. "Do you remember?" Daniel asked quietly. "Every second. I was so humiliated. So sure I'd failed at the most basic thing. I was terrified you'd yell at me for interfering. Thought I'd overstepped completely." They stood in front of the formula section, and Emily picked up the same brand she'd had to return that day. Without thinking, she grabbed 2 containers, one for the cart, one to donate to the store's charity collection. At checkout, the same cashier, Kayla with purple-streaked hair, recognized them. "You're the milk couple. Oh my God, I've followed your story online." "This is amazing." Emily laughed. "The milk couple. That's what everyone at work calls you, the CEO who bought the milk." Kayla rang up their groceries, then paused. "For what it's worth, you guys give people hope. My mom's a single parent. Seeing your story made her believe things could get better." After paying, Daniel and Emily stood in the parking lot, groceries in hand, and looked at each other. "We're the milk couple," Emily said, amused and touched simultaneously. "Could be worse nicknames. Could be better ones, too." Daniel set down the groceries, pulled Emily close. "I love you, milk couple or not." "I love you too, even though you overpaid by about $97 that day. Best money I ever spent." They drove home to the house they owned together, to the daughters who were sisters, in everything but blood, to the life they'd built from a moment of desperation and kindness. That night, after the girls were asleep, Emily and Daniel sat on their porch, watching the neighborhood settle into evening. "Do you think about her?" Emily asked quietly. "Sarah." "Every day, but differently now." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Before you, I thought about her with guilt. Like I'd failed her by not saving her, by continuing to live, by eventually wanting to be happy again. Now I think about her with gratitude. For the years we had, for Lily, for teaching me how to love someone completely." "You don't feel like you're betraying her?" "No. I think she'd be happy I'm happy, that Lily's happy." He squeezed Emily's hand. "You didn't replace her, Emily. You're not Sarah version 2.0. You're just you. And that's exactly who I needed. Who we both needed," Emily corrected. "I needed you just as much." "The milk lady and the CEO," Daniel teased gently. "The milk couple," Emily countered. "Apparently that's our legacy." Inside, they could hear the girls giggling about something supposed to be asleep, but clearly still awake. Daniel started to get up to enforce bedtime, but Emily stopped him. "Let them have 5 more minutes. Life's short. Let them be kids while they can." So they sat there, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, and chose each other every single day after. They sat there and listened to their daughters laugh, and thought about milk they could now afford without thought, and felt the kind of peace that came from knowing they were exactly where they belonged. Months later, on a regular Tuesday afternoon, Emily was at SaveMart again, because despite everything, it was still the closest grocery store. She was comparing pasta prices when she noticed a young woman, maybe early 20s, crying quietly in the checkout line. A baby in her cart was fussing, and the cashier's voice carried across the store. "I'm sorry, your card was declined." Emily watched the woman's face crumble, saw her reach for the formula to put it back, and felt something click into place. She walked over, calm and certain, and placed a hand gently on the woman's shoulder. "Hi, I've been where you are. And someone helped me once. So let me help you now." The woman's eyes went wide as Emily paid for the groceries, added a few extra items, and handed her 2 $20 bills for bus fare. I can't." "You can and you will. And someday, when you're on your feet, you'll help someone else. That's how this works." The woman cried, thanked Emily a dozen times, and left with her formula and her dignity intact. Emily finished her own shopping, paid, and walked to her car where Daniel was waiting in the driver's seat. He'd seen the whole thing through the window. "You're amazing," he said simply. "I'm just passing it on. Kindness that doesn't come with a price, remember." "To kindness that doesn't come with a price," Daniel echoed, taking her hand. "And to love that does." Emily smiled, remembering the toast she'd made a year ago, the words that had become their motto. To love that does. They drove home through streets that had become familiar to the house that held their chosen family, to the life they'd built from broken pieces and grocery store miracles. And as they pulled into the driveway, both girls pressing their faces against the window to welcome them home. Emily thought about that day at SaveMart, the worst and best day of her life, the moment everything changed. She thought about milk she couldn't afford and a stranger who'd paid for it, about jobs and houses and the slow building of trust, about Daniel's patient presence and Margaret's second chances and 2 little girls who'd become sisters, about learning that accepting help wasn't weakness and that love, real love, was choosing someone every single day, broken pieces and all. The universe, Emily decided, hadn't been cruel. It had just been waiting. waiting for the right moment, the right person, the right crisis to bring together two families who needed each other more than either realized. As they walked into their home, their real home filled with laughter and love and the beautiful chaos of chosen family, Emily felt something she'd never quite believed. She deserved complete, unwavering happiness. And somewhere, she thought Sarah was smiling, proud of her husband for learning to love again, grateful to Emily for helping him remember how, happy that Lily had a sister and a grandmother and a home full of people who chose each other. The milk that couldn't be bought had changed everything, not because of the money, but because of what it represented, a moment when pride gave way to need, when a stranger chose kindness over indifference, when two broken people collided in exactly the right way. In the kitchen, Lily and Mia were already arguing about whose turn it was to set the table, their voices carrying the comfortable bickering of real siblings. Daniel was pulling out ingredients for dinner, looking relaxed in a way he never had when Emily first met him. And Emily stood in the doorway of their home, their real, actual chosen home, and knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. The milk had been just the beginning. Everything after was the miracle of two people brave enough to build something beautiful from the wreckage of their separate pasts. And as Emily joined her family in the kitchen helping Mia set the table, while Daniel cooked and Lily narrated everyone's activities like a tiny sports commentator, she sent up a silent thank you to the universe. For bad days that led to good ones. For strangers who became family. For milk that cost $4.87 and changed two lives forever. For love that came with no price tag, just the simple, radical choice to show up every single day and choose each other.